Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. It's really windy out today and kind of cold, so I figured, well, there's a little job that I can get done on the 656. This tractor has glow plugs in it, so it's a diesel engine. These are the fuel injectors right here, and the fuel lines coming to them. And then the glow plugs sit up top here, and they're just long pencils that go down glow red hot and help the engine start when it's cold. And to turn the glow plugs on and off, there's a switch here. It's just a momentary switch. You press it and you hold on it, and then the glow plugs start to warm up and you let off of it after they are glowing. The engine in this tractor is an International D282. D stands for diesel, 282 cubic inches. These engines require glow plugs to start year-round. Doesn't matter if it's 80 degrees out. They require less glow plugs when it's hotter out, but you still need them. So they are a necessity starting these tractors. You can't use ether to start a pre-cup engine like this. It's got pre-combustion chambers. So they got to be working really good. To make them work better, years ago I put in diesel RX glow plugs. Now the original glow plugs that came back in the day on these tractors, and you can still get these kind of glow plugs too, you'd have to hold down on them for about 60 seconds. And then quite often, you know, the old timers would say you keep holding after the tractor starts, keep the glow plugs glowing until the smoke clears on the tractors. But you can't do that with tractors that are set up with alternators and any glow plug that you buy today, because it'll burn out the glow plug in a few seconds. The diesel RX glow plugs that I use, it's a DX 00017 as I remember, heat up in about 10-15 seconds. It's a heck of a lot easier than sitting there with your foot or your finger on the button forever trying to get the tractor to start. The consequence is they draw a lot higher amperage. I checked with the manufacturer. Surprisingly, it was really hard to find the information online. I had to correspond with them. These glow plugs draw about 20 amps each when you first push them on, and then that draw drops to about 7 amps each at 30 seconds. So with 6 glow plugs in this engine, that's what? 20 times 6 is 120 amps on startup. Now the original glow plugs these are double coil glow plugs. The original ones were single coil glow plugs. They only drew about 7 amps when you first push the button. So that would be 42 amps. So the switch that was put in this originally was designed for much less amperage than I used. Having said that, switches made back in the day were a lot better on the whole than switches made now. And the old switch handled my glow plugs just fine for about 8 years, and then it gave up. So I'm going to fix that today. I'm going to put in a permanent solution. First thing we got to do is get the lay of the land here. What a spaghetti mess. I rewired this tractor with a Broman harness when I first got it, so I know the wiring is in decent shape. Here's the back of the glow plug switch with these big wires running into it. One comes from the battery, one goes out to the glow plugs, these heavy gauge wires. First thing we got to do though is find a keyed power source where I've got power when the key's on over here. Here's the back side of the key switch, and I remember that this post here, I believe, is hot keyed power on the back of this gauge. Let's test it. Key on. This requires 3 hands, and unfortunately today I only have 2. Where am I going to put this thing? We'll ground it to the side of the gauge, which is ground. Touch it to that post. Yep. And then we've got battery power with the key on. We turn the key off. We got no power with the key off. Next I'm going to disconnect the batteries. You want to be... Well, you're supposed to be a half. Batteries are always a half. What is going on here? It's probably metric. No, it's not. There's one. Oh, you're going to be fun. I should have stayed inside and watched SpongeBob instead of doing this. What was I thinking? This has 2 batteries in it, connected in parallel to provide 12 volts and a whole lot of amps to get that diesel to spin over quicker. And they're each 12 volt batteries. There. I'm going to pull this dash panel off so that everything's easier to get at. Here we go. This all just flips down here. And we can work it on everything easier. You can see back here, but there's a glow plug gauge back in here, which is just an ammeter. And so everything's wired through. So if I wiggle this wire here, this is the wire that goes to the battery and goes into the back of the ammeter. See it wiggling down there? Goes straight to the solenoid post. So this is the wire from the battery. Then the wire jumpers from the ammeter into the momentary switch here, and then it goes from the switch out and goes up the front through here and down into the glow plugs. So I'm going to take this glow plug switch out so we can get at the terminals easier. There we go. I'm going to have to dig into this further to find the wire routing up front. I can't remember. Probably dented that. Here's why I took this hood off. That's the top of the glow plug wiring there. It comes up through here and it goes all the way around the fuel tank through here and then back around here. That's a long run. And what I have on that run is 8 gauge wire. Now, how many amps a wire can handle at 12 volts depends on its length, but at less than 4 feet, which if I reroute this wire, I'm going to be at less than 4 feet. This wire will handle about 100 amps or so. And the glow plugs work just now. I said that glow plugs draw 120, but the glow plugs are working fine even with this long a run of cable on it. The key is that it's just a momentary thing. It's 10 seconds and they're heated up. So I'm okay with using this size wire. Technically, you'd have to go to a 6 gauge wire. I'm not going to go through and rewire all that when the glow plugs are working fine already. And here's the other side with all the sheet metal off. I figured why not? We'll take it all off. This is the glow plug power wire that's running through here and back around. We're going to move that. First we'll disconnect it here at the momentary switch. All right, let's tease this out of this mess here. Hey, you know what? It occurs to me I haven't actually told you what I'm up to here. I've just been messing around with wires, talking about this and that. Well, there's a clip there. Here's what I'm up to. I'm going to keep all that amperage from flowing through the switch by installing a relay. And all a relay is a magnetic switch that's got 2 circuits that pass through it. The first is the control circuit, and that's these top 2 smaller posts here. And if I run juice in from a switch here and energize this circuit, it pulls a magnet back, which makes contact for the higher amperage circuit, which is controlled by these 2 posts. So this is a 150 amp relay. My glow plug line will pass through here so that when the magnetic switch makes contact, it energizes that circuit, and the switch that energizes this magnet doesn't need to have a whole lot of heavy duty amperage rating. There's very little current passing through here. Pretty simple. Get this wire rerouted so I can shorten it a little bit. This is a mechanical relay that I'm using, old style. They also make solid state relays now that work by magic. I'm not using one of those. Let's get this mounted. I think I'm going to put it right up in here. Short run for the wires and out of the way. You're not going to be able to see this, but trust me, I'm drilling holes with my right angle attachment. Well, you probably can't see this, but now I'm going to zip a couple self-tapping screws in here to get the holes threaded. I'll just leave them there for now. Next, I'm making up some wires for the control circuit of my relay, the low amperage circuit. These are just 16 gauge wires. And I like to use heat shrink tubing for extra insulation, good connection. Makes it look professional. This is my momentary switch, which is going to be my low amperage switch. We're going to put the new wires on that. Put the switch back into the dash panel here. Let's see, that's my up wire. Then this wire goes to my hot post on the back of the gauge here, which I can barely see. One terminal of the switch going up to my ignition hot, and then the other terminal of the switch is going to thread down through here down to my solenoid. And cut this hot glow plug wire. This goes straight to the glow plugs off. Put a ring terminal on the end of it. All right, we're all ready to install the relay. I'm going to show you this as best I can. So here's my hot post on the gauge. You can barely see it down here. That's wired to this momentary switch, and then the momentary switch wire goes down to the relay. And then on the high amperage side, I've got battery juice coming into the back of this glow plug gauge here, which is really just an ammeter, as I said. And then current goes out and down to the relay. On the other side, I've got the juice going out to the glow plugs. So now all I need to do is wire everything into the relay. So these big posts are for the high amperage side, the glow plug circuit, and it doesn't matter which side they go on. There's no positive and negative. Whoops. So there's the high amperage circuit. Now we can wire the low amperage circuit, the control circuit. This is the wire that comes down from my switch. You could call that positive. Oh, I got to put the lock washer in here. And on this side, switch polarity doesn't matter either, positive or negative. It's just engaging a magnet. Now for this other side of the low amperage circuit, I made a jumper to ground. Some relays have an integral ground for the control and some don't. This one doesn't. So I had to make a jumper, and I'll just ground it right to the post here, to the self-tapping screw on this, and that'll be the ground. Now I can mount the solenoid in. There's the ground wire on the one screw. You can see it. We got to get the other screw on here. Geez, I hope I didn't mount it upside down. What? You can do that? I don't know. It's magnetism. It's magic. It doesn't need to be right side up. There's the relay all hooked up. We'll hook up one of the batteries to give it a test. Don't need both of them. Just turn the key on here. We got power, the lights on. Now we press the switch. There you go. That's the sound of the relay working. That little boing, I think, is the spring pulling it back. Boing, boing. I kind of like that. Gauge works. Peg. One of the nice things is now I won't have juice running anywhere with the key off. The switch will be disabled. Before that, you could work the switch with the key off, but now you'll have to turn it on to get juice to the glow plugs. I'll put all this back together and then we can see how she runs, how the glow plugs work. Let's give her a try. It's the next morning. Did you notice that sucking sound that the engine made when I started it yesterday? Yeah. I'll play it for you again. Here you go. That sound is the sound of a valve that's not valving properly. It's either out of adjustment or there's some other problem going on, so I'm going to do a valve adjustment on this tractor. Doing a valve adjustment is not easy because I got all this stuff in the way. The air cleaner, there's the valve cover way down in there. I've got to take this out and this guard out, and I don't know about the fuel tank. The valve cover goes way under there and you can't pull it out without at least pulling this cover off. Here's the other side. Valve cover's behind that exhaust manifold there. Ugh, yuck. No, come off. There you go. We're going to get the lay of the land here. In other words, what has to come off to get this valve cover off? The front comes off fine, but the back, well, I'm going to have a problem with that. Loosen up this heat shield. Take off this intake fitting here. And then try and slide the heat shield out. Just stinking loader. I took the front of the heat shield off and took the fuel tank strap off of here that sheet metal mounts to, and I think that'll do it. Now let's see if we got enough room. All right, fine. You gotta come out of here. Oh, you gotta come out one way or the other. There. Okay, let's see. Well, we can do a little inspection here. Nothing's really cattywampus. We're going to have to go through the paces and do an adjustment. You know the drill. We're going to bring number 1 piston up on the top dead center. It's obviously not now. This valve is open here, and this is the exhaust valve here, and this is the intake valve. So we got to turn it. You see that grease covered nub way down there? That's the timing pointer. Oh boy. I tighten the fan back up and use that to turn the pulley, and after a lot of tugging, you see that little nubbin down there? I don't know if you can see it, but there's a timing scale on there, and the nub is top dead center. So here we go. Here's the INT manual for valve adjustment. With number 1 at top dead center compression, we can adjust valves 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9. We turn it 360 degrees till piston number 6 is on top dead center compression. Then we adjust 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to have to do some cleaning here. The crud always falls in, but let's check. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. Oh, gosh. And 9. They don't feel too far out, at least this round. Gap is 27 thousandths hot, which is anything above freezing or room temperature. Boy, that one is right on where it needs to be. I've heard people say these engines actually run better if you adjust them closer to 30. I find adjusted a few of them, they weren't out more than 1,000ths. Now I got to turn the engine over 360. She's turned around. 4, 6. Now the tough ones, way back in there. 12. There's no smoking gun here. They're all in pretty good adjustment. I mean, I'll touch some of them up maybe 1,000ths or so, but that's not the problem for sure. It's not valve adjustment. Now, since I had so much fun taking it apart, I get to have as much fun putting it back together. Oh, I just love this. Yeah. These days remind me why I'm not a mechanic for a living. Nope. Would not like to do this every day. 8 hours a day. Nope, nope, nope. Now you got to go back under there, and I know you're not going to wanna. I can't remember what it's all back together. Until it warms up, puff once in a while. Listen to the engine, just listen to it. You hear that kind of diesel-y noise? Yeah, that's normal for these. You know, the diesel-y noise, Yeah. These engines are pretty well known for running with a lot of clatter in them. Just the way they sound. So noisy, in fact, do they run that some people call them clatter bangers. That's a fitting name. compared to the way it sounds, the 756 sounds, where it's so smooth and there's hardly any valve train noise. Different engines sound different. That's one of the cool things about running old stuff. In addition, I have no idea how many hours are on this engine. When I bought the donor engine in the junker, it didn't have an hour meter on it. No idea. We'll try her with the muffler on, see what happens, see how it sounds. Sounds pretty darn good to me. Yep, she sounds like she should. In conclusion, glow plug relay, check, works great. Tractor valves and engine sounds, check, they sound great. I really don't think there's anything wrong. I just heard that one noise and I thought to myself, well, I haven't adjusted the valves in a few years and I probably ought to take a look at them. But I think the 656 is going to keep running nice for a long time. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time.